It's no secret that writing can be lonely work, but does it really have to be? Whether you're full-time, part-time, or just starting out, you'll get insights into the tricks, tips, and production habits of writers from every level of the biz. From best-selling authors to those launching their first novels, you're sure to be in the company of friends as we encourage great writers to divulge and share their secrets.
This is the Great Writer Share podcast with your host, horror and sci-fi author, John Crinan.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 65 of Great Writers Share, the podcast where every week we grab an hour or so of time from some of the kindest and hardest working writers around to join us in the show and discuss their approach to the craft of writing, publishing and staying creative. It is Monday the 7th of December as I record this, so let's dive into my personal update. I won NaNoWriMo. I actually finished the target a few days early. And that's thanks in large part to my guest this week. And we chat about Nano quite a bit in this episode, so I'll leave any more about this until the interview segment and just jump straight into our question of the week. Thank you to everyone who answered. The question we asked was, what did you learn writing your first novel? Yanni Jade says, I learned that all my instinctual ideas weren't enough to make a great work of art. I needed to learn from masters of the craft and really learn what it means to be a writer. There's always room for improvement. Faye Trask answered, don't cry over the keyboard because water and electricity don't mix. I've learned don't edit while you write. I got so stuck on getting a scene perfect that I lost a lot of time that could have been put towards writing new scenes. Holly Lyne said that she learned so much. That my first idea is never the best one, don't cut a longer book in two without properly wrapping up the first part, and hire an editor. And finally, Daniel Wilcox said that he learned that if he could do it once, he could do it again. Absolutely, I could not agree more. Today's guest is Samantha Frost, and we talk about winning NaNoWriMo, writing groups, and the importance of creativity, plus so much more. But before we get into the show, I wanted to remind you about our Patreon community over at patreon.com/greatwritersshare, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get involved in our behind-the-scenes group, benefiting from early ad-free access to episodes of the show, join our private Slack channel, ask upcoming guests any of your questions, and get to watch our monthly Q&A videos where me and the other hosts discuss important topics like which one of us we'd eat first if stranded together on a desert island. So if you like the idea of upping your author career and getting all that good stuff, then one more time, that's patreon.com/greatwritershare. And now, without any further ado, let's dive into the interview with the one, the only, Samantha Frost. Samantha Frost is an actor and first-time novelist who recently took on the challenge of NaNoWriMo, that is to write 50,000 words in 30 days, and won in spectacular fashion, storming through her first draft in only 14 days and then completing her second draft all before November 30th. As an actor, Sam appeared in the feature film Seat 25, which won Best Pro Feature and the Raw Jury Prize at the Raw Science TV and Film Festival. She also wrote, directed, produced and starred in the short comedy film Oak Smoked. And I met Sam as part of Daniel Wilcox's recent NaNoWriMo Bootcamp where, right from the start, Sam's energy and determination really cemented her status as a Nano winner long before she hit the target word count. And I am very excited to welcome her to the podcast. Sam, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm blushing. That was probably more nice words in one sentence than I've ever heard before.
They're all deserved.
Oh, well, thank you.
Of course, of course. So, as I said in the intro, you and I have been fellow participants in this bootcamp writing group over the last month. And during that time, it's become pretty clear to me that you're a very creative individual and you've spent a number of years in the arts. You've got the acting background, the short film that you wrote and directed, and now you're writing books. So I was wondering, just to start us off, if you could talk a little bit about your creative journey so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've been desperately clawing for other people's attention since I was I don't know, probably one. I don't remember that far back, but most likely. But yeah, I remember I started off kind of doing concerts. I say concerts, that's wildly overstating it. Just me singing loudly along to, I don't know, probably like Steps and Christina Aguilera and stuff like that in the living room, and just demanding my family's attention. And then I wanted to be a singer. And I put a lot of kind of effort into that, and then drama school. So yeah, I did that, obviously. Then the acting that you've talked about. But I think, like, recently, I'm 34 now, so I'm getting on a bit.
Don't say that. I'm older than 34.
So recently, I've been really kind of understanding my relationship with creativity a bit more, and I apologize if that sounds so wanky, but I have found it to be necessary is the best way I can say it. So yeah, if I'm not acting or writing or whatever, then I'm just painting or writing poems or anything like that. It helps keep the voices at bay. Or I should say it helps get the voices out, and then hopefully they'll shut up for a bit.
Do you think it was...
That's such a question. Sorry.
It absolutely does. I didn't know about the singing for a start. I knew that if I asked that question right up front, because we only met at the start of the bootcamp, so I'm still learning about your background. Obviously, it's a first-time novelist. You've got the acting stuff online, but I figured if I asked that, there might be a couple of other little things that you had done, and the singing I didn't know about, so that's interesting. Yeah. Do you think like that draw to the arts that you had, if you said that you were singing and demanding attention from 1 year old?
Yeah.
Do you think it was always necessary? Do you think looking back, it was just to get the attention, or do you think like it's actually always been a sort of necessary part of you as a person?
I mean, I think that it's definitely a combination of the two. I was certainly using it, and still am. Like, I'm not gonna try to pretend that like I'm so above looking for the attention. I think I was using it for a long time because I wasn't finding attention in places that children would expect to find the attention, without like bringing the podcast down to a violin level. So yeah, I think it kind of started off that way, but also, God, sorry, really good question. Sorry, I'm trying to formulate an answer. I think it goes hand in hand. And I know for me, like, I've had a lot of life in my years, and a lot of experiences that I wouldn't necessarily recommend or wish on other people, but they have fueled certain projects and drives when it comes to creativity. And of course, I mean, to be an actor, there is something there that says, hey, check me out. Like, it's, even if it's small or whatever, and anyone that says, no, I do it for like bullshit, there has to be something there, because you're standing in front of people, whether it's, you know, a camera or an audience, and performing, and that takes, you know, some kind of deficiency in the brain to need that attention. But yeah, I mean, I read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic a couple of years ago, and I adore that book. And she talks about creativity for creativity's sake. And that's somewhere that I'm aiming for. Like, I'm not quite there yet, because for me, the two things that you asked about are so kind of married together that I need a reason to create. So, for example, Nano, I'm writing a book for my niece for Christmas. And, well, that's how it started anyway. It's kind of, you know, snowballed a bit from there. But that was my reason. I paint Christmas cards for people. There's always the person in my head that I'm doing this for, and of course it helps me hugely. So I guess it's kind of selfish, really. But for me, it's that need of wanting to make something and then say, here, like, this is for you. So I think probably a bit of both. I would really like to get to that point where I just kind of, I don't know, sit down and think, I'm going to paint a picture of some fruit or my dog, and no one needs to see it, and it's just for me. But I think I'm a way off that yet. Possibly some meditating in a cave is needed. But who's got the time, John? Who's got the time?
That's years off my cave meditation phase as well. I'm a long way away from that. No, I think it's really interesting. I haven't really formulated my thoughts on this either, but I think it's interesting how the creativity that pretty much every child exhibits, that sort of love for just drawing and painting and singing and making noises, how it only survives to adulthood in some of us, and in others it's kind of lost. And I think there's a quote which I'll probably butcher, is the creative is the child who survived, or something along those lines.
Oh gosh, I love that.
I quite like that as well. And yeah, I'm not really trying to make any point about it, but I just think it's an interesting thing, and it's something to be celebrated when that creative journey is a lifelong journey, is so special. Did you have that? You said from 1 year old you had that. Was there ever any break in that joy of creativity? Did you ever find a time where, I'm thinking like the sort of teens, that period where everyone thinks the stuff I enjoyed when I was young isn't cool anymore. Did you have that?
Well, first of all, I was being slightly hyperbolic by 1, but definitely around 6. No, is the short answer. I think the older I've got, the more I have needed it for expressing myself. And actually, I'm just thinking that singing is the exception when it comes to like creating for other people. I'm just thinking about the previous question quickly. I sing all the time for me. That's a thing. It brings my mood up. But no, there has been no break. There has been times, because I have just a plethora of mental health diagnoses. So there has been times when, say, depression has kind of pulled me away from enjoying things, and particularly with the acting. That's why I had to kind of take a step back for a while, just because it was too much for kind of my anxiety. And that's when I really fell into writing, because I was like, I can do this in my bed. Yes. But no, I mean, during school, there's so many embarrassing videos of me singing show tunes, and I was a witch at one point. No, I mean, I accepted from a young age that as much as I wanted to be cool, I was never going to be. So I just kind of leaned into the stuff that I wanted to do, which was sit in my room, watch Buffy, and, drama and music. And I mean, I remember I was talking about this to someone the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but I remember we got English homework once, and we had to create like a fictional beast or monster or something like that. And it was just like a 1-page assignment. And I created an entire demon anthology. I mean, I got the tea bags out and stained the paper and did the pictures and the cover and everything. And I just remember my English teacher being like, I said 1 page. And I was like, well, you've got this. So no is the answer. I can't think of a time where I've kind of, stepped away from it. for any reason other than just, not being well. Yeah. But it always makes me feel better. That's the thing.
No, I can completely understand that, and what you said earlier about how it's the only way to maybe not silence the voices, but get them out of your head. I can completely relate to that. If you can just lose yourself in a creative project, whether it's something like a podcast or a book or something that will never be seen by anyone else, it's a valuable exercise if it helps you in that way. The fact that you over-delivered on your assignment does not surprise me in the slightest, because I got to witness your energy as part of the boot camp. Before we talk about the boot camp, can you, because I realize I actually don't know the answer to this. I don't know much about the book that you're actually writing. You mentioned it, that you were writing it for your niece, which is something I definitely want to dig into in a little bit. But can you just tell us what you can? I realize that it's not finished yet, so I'm not asking you to share anything that you don't want to, but could you tell us a little bit about the novel, like what genre it's in, where it's sitting in the process right now? I think you're in the third draft, if I'm right, from what we've spoken offline.
Yeah, so it is YA, real like YYA, because my niece is 10, but she reads slightly older. She's incredibly intelligent and wonderful, and it is fantasy, and it follows a young girl called Astrid, who kind of finds out in the beginning of the book that her life is not what she thought it was, and it's a coming of age story, really, and a hero's journey. And I wanted to write something for my niece that celebrated perseverance and ambition and friendship and love and all of those things, and had a strong female lead. And I don't mean strong as in physically strong, although she's physically strong, but I won't go into too much of that because that's spoilies. But she's strong in the sense of we find her at the beginning of the book, and she has been in an orphanage for 3 years, and it is a hellscape. She is relentlessly bullied for just everything. The teachers are not the best, to put it nicely. And she survived. And she survived not just physically, but emotionally. She's found ways to get through that. And it was kind of important for me to have that in there because Amber, that's my niece, she goes to secondary school. She starts secondary school next year. And I wanted those messages there that the outside world will always be telling you to change. Always. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, what you do, who you love, any of those things. It doesn't matter. There will always be outside forces telling you you are not good enough, you are not funny enough, or, attractive enough, or smart enough, or all of the enoughs that you can think of. But actually, if it doesn't matter what those things are, then why try to change yourself? Because the world is going to laugh at the changes anyway. So you might as well stay true to who you are and fuck them. And I wanted that in Astrid, who's, like I say, the protagonist. Because I needed that when I was that age. I mean, like I say, I figured it out, but I just, yeah. So, we follow her basically, and we go through different worlds, and she discovers who she is and who she always was, actually. And yeah, I've absolutely fallen in love with her in the book. While writing it, it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, wow. I think that's such a great foundation to start from. You're starting from a place where you want to impart the life lessons that you've picked up over the years to someone that you care about. And it's like starting with, this is why I want to write this book, not what I'm writing about, kind of in a way. And that seems like a very strong foundation to build a story and plot from. Has the story of Astrid been something that you've had in you for a long time, or did you decide to write a book and then just start figuring out the plot based on the sort of life lessons that you did want to impart?
Okay, so funny story. The book originally was going to be called The Magic Bed, and it's called The Transference, so slightly different. It was going to be called The Magic Bed, and it was going to be about a bed that could travel, anywhere. It could turn into a submarine or an aeroplane or a car or whatever, and it was completely protected. Only the people that you wanted to could get onto the bed. Like, there were different, but because I used to have this when I was a kid, it was kind of like my protection thing. So I would imagine, and I had one of those like headboards with the little buttons in. So each button did something. I was like, I'm going to write her a story about this and it'll be amazing. And now the Magic Bed features for one scene, and it doesn't do any of those things. It's just a transport that is that breaks very quickly. So no is the answer. But I definitely had the idea for the character first. I'm a big fan of character-driven things. So anything, like my favorite programs or books are really, really focused on the characters. So, for example, if we're talking TV, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is like, the characters are ridiculous, but they are so like focused in on who they are that it works. So yeah, I had Astrid in my head, and I had her companion in my head, Memnon, and then I was like, okay, now I need to think of a story, because that's kind of how books work. So yeah, I start from the character, and I guess it makes sense as an actor, you would start there. But yeah, so Astrid, well, the bed came first, then Astrid, and then Memnon, and then I sat down and I never really thought about like, okay, what lessons do I impart? I thought about it as in that strictest sense. I thought about who I wanted Astrid to be. So I guess it's kind of similar, but I never thought, okay, when I'm reading a book or watching a film, if it feels kind of like they're shoving a message down my throat, I'm like, no thanks. Like, no matter whether I agree with it or not, I'm like, you've offended me and I can't deal with it. I'm too sensitive for this. You're forcing something on me. You're telling me what to do. So yeah, it was more a case of, who do I want Astrid to be, and how is she going to handle these situations? Because I think, especially with children, because I've got one of my own, you can tell them something over and fucking over again. So many times, and they won't do it. But you accidentally drop your coat on the floor once, and for the next 5 years, that's what they're doing. They listen with their eyes, not their ears. So I wanted it to be an example that way, as opposed to kind of, I don't know, saying like, this is the things and things. I wanted to kind of set an example. I mean, I did it with my son when he was that was a couple of years ago. He was really struggling in junior school, infant. I went to a primary, so bloody infant junior confuses me. Junior. Yeah,
I can't help you on this. In Scotland, it's different naming as well, and that's where I grew up. So
too many names for different schools. But I wrote him a set of picture books about a little alien called Rory, and it was all about the emotional struggles that he was going through. So there's Rory the alien wants to be normal, and Rory the alien's sad, and there's another one I can't remember. It's Rory the alien is something, shocker. but by doing it that way, he kind of understood more, because he was reading. He was following a peer in a sense, as opposed to your parents who you're like yeah whatever. You forget that they've been that age and they probably know more than you. I'm still not sure on that point. But yeah, so that's my answer.
It's a good answer. There's a lot there to unpack, but I just think you're right. I think that's the wonder of story, is that it allows us to live through experiences that we've never experienced, through a character that we embody to a certain extent, and we can take away lessons. I mean, that's the whole byproduct of seeing a character change and be changed by what's happening in the story. And that's kind of, I think, not to sound too grand, but why story exists is to teach those lessons in a weird way, going back to when we were all sitting around the campfire. This is they're drawing the lions and tigers on the cave wall, and that is, just to tie it back to our meditation caves that's in our future. Back in the day, they had the cave paintings, and it was like, if you see one of these, you want to run, and this is why, and this is the story I'm going to tell you. And really, our stories are a little bit more complicated and elaborate now, but I think it comes down to the same thing, or it can do. It boils down to that.
I think it does. I mean, like you say, in around the campfire, that's killed me. Just like, we've had a busy day, let's sit around the campfire. In back then, it was, if you see one of these, run the other way, or at least run faster than the person that's with you.
That's also good advice.
Yes, I don't have to be quicker than the tiger, just have to be quicker than you. But I think that's still the case now. It's just, there are tigers and wolves in the world, many, and they come in, all sorts of disguises. And I think you're right. I think it's the same thing. We might not have to run away from literal bears and tigers and lions and all that kind of thing now. But there are certainly, like I say, wolves in the world. So yeah, I think books still serve that purpose. Story still serves that purpose. It shows you, just because a wolf looks like an attractive woman or man, or because they seem friendly, it's about the guises that humanity can take on, or aliens or whatever, depending on the story. But yeah, I think it definitely still serves that purpose.
100%. I'm with you. The book, as it stands, it's in third draft. Have you let anyone read it yet?
So my sister, my big sister, I have read her up to the beginning. So the book is set into 3 parts. The Orphanage, Iridensia, and Trinitatia. So I haven't let her read it. I have read it to her. Not that I'm a control freak. Up until just after the 2nd chapter of part 2. So I've been reading it to her. But other than that, hell no, I haven't let anyone anywhere near it. One of our fellow book campers has very generously offered to kind of help me with the edit and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but not yet. It's I know it's going to be rough when we edit it, but it's still too rough. I'm very particular about people seeing things before they're at a stage that I'm happy for them to be seen. It's kind of that same mentality of, how, like, if your parents are visiting, you run around and you tidy the whole house, and then you might just, drop a bit of rubbish on the floor or knock something over, and when they come around, you'll be like, oh God, I'm sorry, it's such a mess, I haven't had time. It's that kind of thing. So it has to be in a certain place before I'm happy to let other people, especially other people that are also writers, because I'm still very, very new long form writing. So yes and no is the answer, but my sister seems to be very much enjoying it. It's made her cry a couple of times. Because she was in the story, not because it was terrible. I should make that clear. Oh my God, it's just so horrible.
That's always good when you can get tears, and even in an early draft, you're nailing it for sure. That's very exciting. You mentioned the boot camp, and we really should talk about the boot camp. It's the reason that we both met. This was Daniel Wilcox's NaNoWriMo Bootcamp, where we all got together about 18 of us, something like that. There was a good group.
Yeah, and wasn't it?
Yeah, it was excellent. We got together twice a week under Dan's leadership, all on Zoom, and we remotely did some writing sprints. I had my experience of the bootcamp, but can you just share what was your experience of the bootcamp now that it's in the rearview mirror?
God, I know. Isn't that insane? I feel like I've been living in November since like 500 years ago, and also that it never happened. So like, it's so bizarre. So I was never even intended on doing nano, let alone a boot camp, because I think it's insane. I think it is a fully insane thing, and I happened to see Dan. He was being interviewed by Jenna Moresi on her YouTube channel about horror, and I was like, oh my God, he's English. Like, let me have a look into this dude. And then I was on his website and I saw the boot camp, and I was like, oh, and this was like 2 days before Nano, and I was like, oh, no, maybe not. And because I can't be told what to do by anybody, including myself, the second I said no was the second I added it to my cart and then did it. I literally have to trick myself into doing things. It is ridiculous. I am just a comical human being that has to jump through hoops to get myself. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I was kind of a bit nervous because I was like, well, I don't know if it's all going to be first-time writers or all going to be, authors of prestige. So I didn't know what to expect. But what I fell into, quite literally, was a group of just the best people. It has been one of the best kind of experiences I think I've ever had. I have a saying that, well, me and my sister, Rhiannon, we have a saying that is, I hate people, but I love persons. And I found so many awesome persons in that boot camp. So supportive and helpful. And I mean, Nano was never my goal. And I said this to Dan. We were talking about it, and I said, because he was saying, he told me that he was like, you can take a day off, that's okay. And I said, yeah, but I can't, because Nano is not my goal. The book is my goal, because the reason I decided to do all of it was to have something to hold my feet to the fire, because I'd taken a long time planning the book. I mean, I'm literally, as I'm talking to you, I can see my character boards and the outlines, and I've got folders and all sorts. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And then I'd kind of gone, okay, I can take a break now from that, at least, because as we've discussed off air, I'm not very good with days off and breaks. And it kind of fell in the rear view, even though I knew it had to get done. It was like, it's fine, I'll do it on the night. Turns out novels are a bit harder than that. But yeah, so I did sprint through quite quickly, but that was because it's a Christmas present. So at least, the kind of the unprofessionally edited version is for her. And I was just supported throughout that. I mean, that we getting text messages from Dan every morning, you know, the group, these kind of like mini we few we oh god, I've forgotten the quote, how embarrassing. We few we merry few, we, you know, it was very much kind of that feeling, and just having the chats on the side and just gifathons, and yet still getting oh no, I know I'm so bad. I can't help it. I've always got my phone in my hand because either my son is at school and I'm terrified I'm going to miss a call about him, or he's with his dad and I'm terrified something's going to happen, or I just got it in my hand because he's in the room and I'm terrified he's going to talk to me. So there's always some level of terror there. So I'll be like writing and then I'll just think, oh, GIF. Oh, yeah, it's bad. But to answer your question succinctly, which I think is a bit too late to do that now, but should you wish to edit to a shorter answer, it has been amazing. Dan is incredible. He has been so supportive. And the people in the bootcamp, including yourself, John, have been so amazing and supportive and just like good people. It's a kind of restore your faith in humanity kind of bunch of people. And I don't do compliments with sincerity very often. So I'm sure I'm going to hear a lot of things about this. But yes, they are an amazing group of people and I love them. And it's been incredible. And just a huge thanks to Dan for doing it, because I've met people that I hope to be in my life for forever now, or as long as, you know, I'm capable of drawing breath. So it has been awesome. And yeah, that was the short version.
It was good, and I shall not be editing any of it. And that sincere
good.
compliment is now recorded for posterity forever. So
Yeah.
all your fellow participants can listen to it on repeat as much as they like.
Awesome.
Yeah, you were really an active member of the group, and actually everyone was very active. This is one of the things, because I agree with you, it was a spectacular group of individuals, and the stars really aligned in a way that they don't always for these gatherings.
No.
And everyone was active, you especially so. And I'm not talking about the boot camp, but I've been in writing groups in the past, and you see people kind of turning up, and they kind of very much keep to themselves, and they stay quiet in the background. And it's unfortunate, but in my experience, they often will eventually stop coming altogether. I was wondering, like, does that kind of muck in attitude, that get involved attitude, and does that come naturally to you, or is it something you need to cultivate?
I think it comes naturally. I think it's born of anxiety. So I often can find myself talking too much, and I've spoken in many of our Zoom chats, particularly the weekend ones, which were insane, about the fact that I don't have a filter. I don't know if I was born with one and it broke, or I was just never given one. So it takes a lot of energy for me to filter myself. And when I am particularly anxious, ill, tired, hungry, anything that requires energy, I forget to keep that filter up. So my anxiety makes me talk a lot and get involved. And there's also a fundamental need in me to prove myself. It is not healthy. I am very aware that it is not healthy, but it's, I mean, it goes back to, I remember I used to get signed up for all of the runs during sports day. So they'd send me out of the form room to do some bullshit errand, and when I would come back, they'd fucking signed me up for like the 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600 and the hurdles and the friggin' relay, because they knew that I would rather die on the track than not finish first. And it's part of my pathology, and it is something that I hope to not always be there. I mean, it's helpful when you're getting stuff done, but it's also like a huge detriment to, well, I mean, I have insomnia, for example. That's probably part of it. Just lots of different things. So it's good to go, look at what I achieved, like, smiling glossy to the world, but behind that you're just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna die. So yeah, I think a lot of it is born from like a need to prove myself, and particularly at the beginning, that kind of anxiety of, I don't know what this is going to be, and I don't like silence, so let me just shout at everybody until they either join in or tell me to shut up.
Well, I'm so glad that you were there, because that energy, like I said in my intro for you, that energy was very infectious, and I think it brought so many people along with you on this mad journey to sprint and write this book in record time, which you did. What do you think? What do you think the writing experience of the book would be like if you hadn't discovered Nano, if you hadn't discovered the boot camp? You've obviously got this deadline, which I'm guessing was in place before you booked up. I think you said that it was. Where do you think you would be right now if you hadn't found that? Would that urgency have kicked in by now, or do you think you would still be waiting on do it on the night type thing?
Do it on the night. Well, what we are now, we're in December, aren't we?
We are on, we're recording this on December 4th. And it's going to go out next week, so it's quite close, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I think by now it would have kicked in. I hope. I could be lying. Yeah, I think by now it would have kicked in. But I'm now in a position where I am refining something that I've written, where if I had waited and started now, it wouldn't be nearly half of what it could be, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm wired a bit like you, I think, in quite a few ways, but specifically in the way that I'm a very much do it on the night guy as well. And I've got away with it. I've gotten away with it my entire life, because I generally can pull it off. I can generally do the thing that I need to do in quite record time or on the night. But I always think afterwards, if I just put in, if I just started a little bit sooner. And you would think that lesson would finally get into my brain, but it doesn't seem to.
No, it doesn't surprise me. Because it hasn't gotten into mine either.
Yeah, it's a very difficult lesson to learn.
The problem is that every time you pull it off, you are validated that you don't need to put in more effort. I mean, all the way through school, I worked that way, and I got like pretty decent grades at the end of it. I remember my mum calling up like, Sam, are you revising? And like me pausing Buffy and being like, have you had any letters from my teachers to tell you that I haven't had my homework in time, or that my anything's slipping? She's like, no. I said, well, then get off my back. I was such a delight to my mother as a teenager. Mum, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I've always been that way. I thrive under that pressure. My brain works in a way under that pressure. I can plan, like with this book, I planned beforehand, and I took my time with that, as I had the time. I mean, I stupidly, for my niece's birthday, I sent her like a blurb, and I'd drawn the characters, and I had a little bit about all the characters, and it was like, coming this Christmas. And so then I had to do it, right? Because that would be a proper dick move if I was like, when I said this Christmas, that I meant sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do it. Yeah, so I think probably like now, maybe next week, I would have been like, right, shit, got to get it written. Yes, but it's the pressure. I mean, it creates diamonds out of coal, right?
It
To
does. It
to
does.
use a very worn analogy.
No, I think that's such an important thing that you did by making that promise at her birthday, because you put in some serious stakes that you
Yeah.
could not go back. You could not go back on, and that is kind of what you need to do. And it's kind of what the boot camp group achieved as well, just by the accountability, because we were all on this journey together. And you
Oh,
mentioned
they did
briefly,
so good.
everyone did so good.
Yeah.
So many people hit that 50k and surpassed it, and it was amazing. And yeah, but that accountability of the group, and yeah, you mentioned the Sunday sessions, which we should just talk about briefly, because when I signed up for the boot camp, I kind of expected, I knew kind of what I was getting in for. It was going to be 2 weekly Zoom sessions where I would do some sprints, and I expected to do my 1,600, 1,700 words a day. That's what you need to hit to win Nano. But what I didn't count on was, I mean, I don't even know whose idea it was. I'm going to guess you were heavily involved in planning the Sunday sessions, but they basically turned into epic days. Now, I wasn't on. I only made it to 1 or 2 of them, but quite a few
And we were
of you,
very
the core
disappointed
group.
in you.
Yeah, I'm sorry to let you down. But when I did clock in, I had my best days, word count wise. You guys were regularly hitting 10k days, I think, on Sundays.
Yeah. Oh, well, do you know what? I tell you what, thinking about it, I think those weekends came from 2 things. One, because it was Holly, like Holly gets the credit.
Oh, sorry. Oh, was it Holly? I didn't realize.
Holly, yeah. And because I can't remember who like originally suggested it or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't me. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, what's this? More time? Yes, please. And Holly, like, very generously, just, she'd open a Zoom room from kind of like 11 till 11. And, people would come and go throughout the day. And yet those days, it was the Sundays. The Saturdays were kind of more relaxed. The Sundays, and the reason we had those crazy Sundays is blame Dan, because he would like set a challenge at the beginning of the week, that there would be some kind of reward or something. And he hinted once that there could be a performance that he would do. And that was it. That was fucking it. Like, the blinkers went on and we were like, we need to get these words. And that's where 10K Sundays came from. I mean, the last Sunday that we did, it was me and, it was lots of people, but it was me and Laura right at the end, and Deb. And we were there till like almost 2 a.m. And we were like, only 20,000 more words to do, and we get the reward. We can do it. And bearing in mind that at the beginning of the day, it was close to like 100,000, possibly more, that we had to get in that Sunday. And obviously we didn't get those ourselves. Like, everyone together came and did it. But yeah, it was that camaraderie and that not having to stick to strict break times. Because people would say, like, I can't keep up with the chats and this kind of thing. And I was like, I need that, because I work so fast. My brain works so fast that if I don't stop every now and again and just have that space to vent or talk or just send stupid memes to people, then I'll crash into a wall, and I can't afford to crash. So that's what the weekends became, these insanely high word count days with the biggest breaks and the most. I mean, you were you got a crash course in the kind of crap that we talk when you turned up that Saturday. Just utter nonsense. But it
That's
was.
that's what I
Yeah.
loved about it. I loved how, just the group of the instant friendships that happened in the group, and the in jokes that built up over the month. It was just one of those things that can take a long time to relationships that can take a long time to build and nurture, just immediately sprung to life under the pressure of, like, we're all in the same boat, we've all got to get this 50k. And the Dan's challenge, Dan's weekly challenges were fiendish, because he didn't challenge us the first week. So we all wrote for the first week, and then he brought out, okay guys, you've managed this in week 1. I want you to beat that combined word count in week 2. So there was no chance of us. There was no chance of us having that sort of middle dip that you sometimes get. You couldn't take your foot off the gas, because there was people there like yourself just cheering everyone on, and it was the reason that I hit 50k. I've done Nano before. I've won before. I've lost before. I won this year, and I'm sure that if it hadn't been for all of you, I wouldn't be sitting here a Nano winner. So I thank you for that.
You are very welcome.
How did you feel when you hit that 50k mark on day 14, I believe it was? In your head, was it, this is 2 questions in one. 1, how did it feel? 2, with your mindset, was it inevitable for you in your head that you were going to reach 50k? Was there ever any doubt?
No, there was no doubt in my head. And I don't mean that to sound like, oh, I knew I could do it. But like I say, 50k wasn't the goal for me. The book is the goal. And I had set it up in my head that Nano needed to be won in those first 2 weeks, so that I could concentrate on the rest of the book. Because I was like, if I can get 50,000 words in, then I'll have some idea of how to do this thing. So no, it was never. There was never a point where I doubted that I would hit the word count, but I think that's more of a case of you can't doubt something that isn't there. So it's very difficult for me to explain, but I have, lots of people have said stuff like this to me before, like, oh my God, why didn't you like drama school, for example, second year, I was homeless. Not on the streets homeless, but I didn't have enough money to have my own place, and I was saving up for the third year to go live with my sister and stuff. So I was kind of sofa, what do they call it? Surfing.
Couch surfing,
yeah. And I remember someone saying to me a couple of years back, like, why didn't you just go home? Like, what? That sounds horrible. And I said, well, it never occurred to me. And it's not that I'm this, person that's like, I will do this. It doesn't enter my brain. When I have truly set my sights on something, that's it. The decision has been made, and that's what I'm going for. God, I sound like such a prick.
No, you don't. You don't at all. I think that is incredibly important for people to hear. I think along similar lines, and this is something I've had to work on. I'm not naturally good at this, but I don't remember where I originally heard this idea, or I might have read it, I might have heard it in a podcast, I'm not sure, but it was basically the idea that once you make a decision, it's done. You don't need to put in any extra work, any extra brain power. If you say tomorrow morning at 6 a.m, I'm going out for a run, you don't have to get up at 5:30 tomorrow and think, am I going for that run? You've already made the decision. The decision has been made. Now all you've got to do is do the run. And when I heard that, I just thought, oh, that changes everything. That's so
Yeah.
important, but it doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, and it sounds like it just comes naturally to you. You make a decision, you don't then need to make the decision again. It's done. It doesn't matter if you made the decision 2 weeks prior or 2 minutes prior.
Yeah.
You never have to revisit that thought.
No, but I mean, let me make this very clear. This is about stuff like this. There things like making dinner, and minutiae, that kind of stuff. Then I'm constantly having to remind myself that I made a decision to keep feeding me and my son when I don't want to get off the sofa. But no, when it comes to big stuff, yeah. I mean, it's that quote by is it Emily Earhart? The decision. I'm going to butcher this. The decision is the hard part. The rest is paper tigers, I think is the quote. It's something along those lines. And yeah, it is just about if it is important to you, if it is truly important to you, and I would like to say you are in a place health-wise that you can do this, because all of these inspirational quotes always miss out the fact that, you know, a lot of people suffer with mental health issues. So, and they could then make you feel like shit if you can't do it. But if you are in a place mentally where you are well and you are thinking about doing something, you can very quickly find out if it's important to you or not, because if it is, you'll deliver. And it is as simple as that. And it sounds harsh, but it's true. I have for the longest time wanted to go, this sounds like complete tangent, but there we go. For the longest time wanted to go to a Halloween party as either Black Widow or Lara Croft, right? But until in my head I have the body to do that, I don't want to, because I know the way my brain works and then all of that. But I've yet to do that. So I'm like, is that so important to me? Because if it was, I would either have done it or be doing it. And I am doing neither of those things. Literally, before we started speaking, I was eating bourbons. Do you know what I mean? So it's just when there is something that you want and that you truly want, then you do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the old line, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. You have to focus on the things that are important. And if they are that important to them, then you really can do anything. But I'm very much someone who wants to do everything, and I've got to
me
constantly keep reminding myself of that line. I say that to myself quite a lot.
I have this thing where I need to feel like, sorry, that my dog is barking at my bedroom door. I'm just going to go let him in because he will not stop.
Yeah, special guest, please.
But yeah, I have that thing where I'm just like, I want to do all the things. I can do all the things. Why can't I do all the things? Yeah, and then I'm kind of lying, you know, just on the floor, like, oh no, I did none of the things.
We have lost you in audio just a little bit because I think you stepped away from the mic. But I will tell our listeners, even though they cannot see, because they're only going to be listening, your dog, your pug, is the most adorable dog.
Oh,
ever.
He's so cute.
Yeah,
I know they can't see him, but they can probably hear him.
They can hear him
like a little truffle pig. We call him Truffle Pug because he's constantly snuffling the ground.
Yeah, he's adorable. What does your self-care? What does self-care look like to you?
Does that answer your question?
Maybe.
Do you know what? It depends. I go through seasons, so sometimes it is strict bedtimes. You know, strict getting up, strict eating, strict diets. I say strict. I don't mean like unreasonable. I just mean like I've made the decision and this is what I'm doing. And then I'll do that for a while, and then something will happen, and I'll just kind of fade out of it into what I call like fallback Sam. And fallback Sam is, I'll exercise tomorrow, but I really want that donut, and I want to read these books, but I also want to play Angry Birds on my phone. So it depends. But when I am my most productive, self-care to me looks like getting up before my son, because I need that space in the morning. I need that mental space before I can give anything to anyone else. I need to remember that I'm a human and that I'm awake, and that the things in my room aren't trying to kill me. They're always there. And then I like to write. I do free writing in the morning, and that's where my poetry usually comes from. And then I would exercise. And then I used to do meditation, but I find it kind of difficult because it's a lot of doing nothing, and I'm not good at doing nothing. And also meditating in the morning, often I would just realize that I'd fallen back to sleep. So not helpful. And then I have to create something. I was talking about this to my sister earlier. Like I said to you, it's necessary, and in whatever way. I mean, it can literally just be me painting a picture of something stupid and pointless, but to give to like Miles when he gets home. And it can take me a short amount of time, but I have to make sure there is some form of creation going on in my day. I drink a lot of water. I've always drunk a lot of water, though, to be fair. I drink far too much caffeine. I don't think that falls into the self-care camp. And then at bedtime, it's things like journaling and reading. So it's like getting all the thoughts out in the morning when I wake up, and then getting all the thoughts out before I go to sleep, or at least before I attempt to go to sleep, because my insomnia has been kicking my ass recently. But yeah, so it's just about taking time for myself, really, and getting out anything that's been bothering me or bugging me. And do you know what? I found the poetry. It's strange because I would have thought journaling would be the best for that, and I haven't been writing poetry long. But I found writing poetry so helpful. Just getting out what I'm feeling, or kind of working through kind of past trauma and experiences. It's really helped with that. So yeah, I mean, self-care is difficult for me. I mean, I don't think it's particularly easy for a lot of people. The idea of looking after yourself, we're so kind of trained that that's selfish, and you should look after other people and all that stuff. Other people, whatever. Let them look after themselves. That's self-care for everybody. Yeah.
No, we have so many similarities that just you were going through your list there, and I was just checking off things in my head. Like, yeah, I need to do that too. I like the fact that you do something creative every day. I have a wall chart, like a wall planner type thing. And every day I get across it in the box, and this is written at the top, the task that I need to do is make something new today, even if it sucks. So I have to make something, and it can be anything. Some days it's writing, some days it can be a podcast, some days it can be a new meal or anything at all, but it has to be something. And that's like the one non-negotiable. That's the one thing that made it onto my wall chart. So I love the fact that you did that. And also I'm a massive fan of hydrating. Everyone should hydrate much more than they actually are.
I know. The amount of times that I've been to like the doctors or like the hospital or something, and they're like, "Are you drinking enough water?" And whoever's with me just laughs. So I tend to. I mean, I'm going to show you, but like no one else can see. It's like a 2.2 liter bottle, and I usually drink like 2, maybe 3 of these. So I drink like at least a gallon of water a day.
Yeah, you're my hero. You're my hero. I love that. I have these.
Hero.
Yeah, I've got these like liter ones, and but I'll drink a number of these every day, and that's actually another non-negotiable. Before we get to the one question that we ask all our guests, then we've got a little quick fire round for you. I've got two things I'd just really like to cover before we get to those, and we'll try and do them quickly. If you could go back to the start of November and give yourself some advice, Is there anything that you would give that 34-day younger self? Did you learn anything about NaNoWriMo and about making and writing a book that you wish you'd known earlier? I think you've been making your entire life, so I'm not sure if you will have something, but I'm intrigued.
Not so much that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had amazing advice off well, almost everybody really that took part, but the thing I would tell myself is you can trust some people, and that's okay.
That's a very good answer. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, one other thing. What's next? What is next for the book? Obviously, you've been talking about this Christmas deadline for your niece, and that is going to be the book as good as you can get it. But I'm guessing, I think you actually said that you're not intending to publish it for everyone before Christmas. But I'm guessing that is on the cards, though, right? To publish it.
Yeah, it is now. It wasn't. I'd never intended to. I'd never intended to publish this book. I have a book that has been in my head for about 3 years that I very much want to write, but I'd never intended to publish this. But I have fully fallen in love with it. So yeah, what's next is my niece gets it. She loves it, and if she doesn't, she lies to my face, which I appreciate. That I think, more of that.
Hopefully she'll listen to this podcast so that she learns that she needs to do that.
You must lie to my face. I hope you like it, but if you don't, I don't need to hear about it. And then I want to, work it properly. So send it to editors and publish it. I mean, obviously I don't have a date for any of that yet because I've never done any of that. So it would be folly of me to try and put a timeline on something because there's a learning curve for sure there. I'm starting book coaching next year, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, what's next is just the same as before, is just to write the words and create the things and keep myself alive doing it.
Do you think you'll continue to write more books once it's finished?
Yeah. Like I say, I've had this, I literally on my wall have a small canvas of a symbol that I dreamt about. It was in a dream, and I woke up and I drew it down. And from that picture and from one of the lowest moments in my life came this story. But it's huge, and I've always felt like, it's too big. I'm not ready yet. But now I'm engaging in this coaching. I might just be like, here's my idea. How do I do this?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's in your future for sure. We have a question that we ask all our guests. I think we've covered it, but you might want to word it in a slightly different way. You might have more to add when asked directly. Why do you write?
Oh, God, that's a good question. I would say most of what I've said already kind of covers it, but it's to tell stories to not just other people, but to myself. I often find in writing, I find out things about myself that I hadn't understood before. And just generally, as with any kind of creation, and I'm not being over dramatic, it literally is the reason I'm still alive. I need to create to be well. It is that simple. So to sound like the biggest wanker in the world, I write to stay alive. That
does not sound wanky at all. That's maybe the best answer I've heard to that question, actually.
Oh, well.
Okay, we are going into a quick fire round. This is just a little bit of fun. We went to some heavy places in our chat, which I very much enjoyed. I could talk to you all night about this, but unfortunately, we're out of time. So this is just a little bit of fun. 10 questions. Just answer as quick as you can. You can pass if you want to, but there's nothing here that's particularly difficult. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1. Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Crunchy.
What book are you reading at the moment?
I've just started reading The Good Immigrant, which is a collection of essays edited by Nikesh Shukla, I believe. I've probably butchered that name and I apologise.
Cool. Question 3. What's your favourite internet meme?
Oh, God. The ice cream, the milkshake one. Have you seen? It's like a cartoon grandson, grandfather, and the kid runs in and he looks all like, there's the boys are in the yard, and the grandfather turns around and goes, my milkshakes.
Question 4. Baths or showers?
Baths.
Question 5. Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, Ewan McGregor. Oh,
Question
that
6.
faded.
Question 6. This might be a tricky one, actually. This is a bit mean of me. Acting or writing?
Oh, well, currently writing, but I see them both as creating characters and story. So you can't really separate them, I don't think.
That was a mean one. Question 7. The last thing you watched on TV?
Oh my God, what was the last thing I watched on TV? Oh, do you know what? Today I watched an episode of Next Level Authors on my TV on YouTube. But if we're talking about like TV, it was Elementary. I'm rewatching that for about the 500th time because I'm obsessed with Johnny Lee Miller's Sherlock.
Question 8. Now, we've talked about insomnia a bit, so this is maybe mean as well. But what time is your alarm clock set for?
At the minute, 6. But I generally wake up about 5:30. Yeah.
Question 9. Theatre or cinema?
Cinema. And I know that is controversial, but yeah.
Question 10. Steaks, rare or well done?
Oh, rare. Get Out with well done.
I'm with you on that one. Question 11, a little bonus one. Where can our listeners find out more about you and all that you're working on? Your social media handles or websites?
Well, I mean, at the minute, it would be Instagram, I would say, was the best place to find me. And I believe it's something like Single Mum Actor or something, because I thought I was being incredibly pithy.
It is at Single Mum Actor. I have it here in my notes, and I follow you. I will share that link in the show notes, so everyone will be able to get and link to you. Sam, that's us. Thank you so much for joining me, and let me just wish you the very best of luck with the book. I know that you're going to smash it, and thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Great Writers Share podcast. Tune in next week when Faye will be joined by Victoria L.K. Williams. Don't forget that you can catch up on the entire backlist of Great Writers Share episodes, plus a ton of behind-the-scenes content, early access to episodes, our Slack group, monthly Q&As with me and the other hosts, and even one-to-one coaching from Dan by joining our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/Great Writers Share for all the details. Until next time.